Hey everybody, Matty Ice here, and in today's video I'm going to be taking you through the revised Lake of Shadows Grandmaster. Now the first part of this recording actually is missing, so I'm kind of picking it up a little bit of the ways into the mission, about 7 minutes as you can see from the timer, but that's not going to really impact what happened. At the very beginning, you're just escorting the payload through a bunch of ads and a bunch of champions. It's the same advice I've always given though. Use the terrain to block shots as cover, keep your distance, and just take it slow. There's a lot of ads, but they don't infinitely spawn, so as long as you're just taking your time to clear them out before you try to push the payload forward, you should be fine. When you get to this point though, this is arguably one of the harder parts of the entire Grandmaster, and you have to escort this payload up to the orb. When you get to this point, you have to then fight one of the taken meatballs, and I'll talk about that more in a second. But as you can see here, if you're having trouble, just keep backing off. You're not going to be going out of bounds, you're not going to get a turn back or anything like that. So again, just make sure you take it slow and use the cover you have. Now, before I go any further, if you do find this video helpful, I would greatly appreciate it if you could like it and subscribe to the channel. Especially with Season 21 coming out soon, I'm going to be doing a lot of guides and a lot of builds, because there's a lot of exotic changes. So please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like that. Now, once you get the meatball to spawn, if you have a well, I highly recommend placing it down and just doing damage from the well. If you have Starfires, this is a great opportunity to just let loose. This is the last week you're going to be able to do that before they completely nerf it into the ground, so I highly recommend taking advantage of that. If you don't have Starfires or you're doing this after Season 20, I recommend doing Phoenix Protocol or some other well lock build, just because, as you saw earlier, that meatball in a well of radiance is doing over half my health, so that will nearly one-shot you or absolutely one-shot you outside of a well. One other thing you have to look out for, besides the void shots, are the little seekers that the meatball puts out. They do a ton of damage and they track you down. Don't forget to shoot those out of the sky. And also you want to watch out for the ground. Now there is like taking ground that becomes like an environmental hazard, and sometimes it's a little hard to see, so just keep an eye out for that as it can do a lot of damage and just whittle you down. If you don't have a well or you're just waiting for it to come back, I highly recommend just using the buses for cover. The meatball moves around a little bit, but not too much, so you'll be able to dodge a lot of that damage if you hide behind this bus that I'm behind now, or the one that's off to the side, or those trees even. So just take your time, get another well if you have it, or just get the cover and use that to pop out and do some damage. But the meatball has a good amount of health, but not too much, and killing it shouldn't be too time consuming. Once you do that, don't forget to detonate the payload, and then you'll be able to move on to the next section. Moving on to the little pre-bridge section, this actually isn't going to be too complicated. It's pretty much the same as it was before, only you're replacing all the Taken with the Shadow Legion Cabal. That's pretty much a recurring theme throughout this whole Grandmaster now. So just use the height advantage that you have here, watch out for the little Taken boops on the wall and the floor, watch out for the unstops that kind of come at you, but just use the height you have and the walls as cover to just use your grenades or machine guns, rocket launchers, whatever you plan on using here, and just let loose from the high ground. Just like Obi-Wan, you want to make sure you have the high ground, and it's just going to serve you well here. After this section is the bridge section, which is pretty much the same as it was before, with a couple notable differences. Again, just like before, replace all the Taken with Shadow Legion, but the main thing you have to watch out for are the Threshers. So there are going to be 2 of them. The first one spawns pretty early in, and the second one spawns a little over halfway through. So you want to make sure you get behind some cover, or have a Titan with some barricade, or like a well or something, because the Thresher will absolutely destroy you. They did nerf the damage after the first week of this being released, so it's not going to insta-kill you, but it still does a ton of damage. As you can see here, I was behind cover when it was shooting at my teammate, and the rockets killed me instead. The rockets do change who they're tracking onto, so just be careful of that. If you have someone with a rocket launcher, I think it's about 2 or 3 rockets will take it out. If you're using a machine gun like I am, it takes a little while, but you can still put some damage on target, and you'll just need to worry about blowing it out before you move to the next section. As I mentioned before, once you get about halfway through, the next Thresher pops out. Keep in mind you can shoot the rockets out of the sky. If you're using a machine gun, using a scout rifle, auto rifle, whatever you want to use, it doesn't take a whole lot of damage to break them. It's something you can do to help your teammates if they're taking damage from the Thresher or if they're trying to just get a shot off. Alright, once you're past the bridge, you're getting to the power station section. Again, just like last time, unstoppable champion, barrier champion. just a different race this time as opposed to Taken, it's Cabal. So keep this as usual, work your way up the stairs, use the pillars as cover, and just watch out for the Taken boops and falling into the river below. Alright, once you get past that part, instead of a Taken wizard and goblins, there's going to be a barrier champion and another strand shielded guy. Again, watch out for the boops. If they put you in the middle, you're probably going to die. If that happens, just try to get the res and run immediately outside as quickly as possible. But otherwise, just take this guy out as normal. It shouldn't be too hard in here. Alright, now we're moving on to the Tormentor section. This is probably the other hard part that most people are going to have trouble with. And that's because the Tormentor itself puts out a ton of damage, but then you also have several of these Acolyte eyes that just unload arc damage on you. If you have a well, just be careful, and I recommend putting it actually in the corner, because the Tormentor will push you outside the well and will kill you that way. If you're running Stasis or Strand, you can suspend or freeze the Tormentor. So what I recommend doing is having someone suspend or freeze the Tormentor while one person focuses on clearing out the eyes, and the other two people worry about doing damage. If you do end up going down, keep that in mind as you're going to have to be running around the Acolyte eyes. You can avoid the Tormentor pretty easily, and you really just have to get it within finish range because it's not a boss. You'll be able to finish it out, and then the eyes despawn, and you can get the reses and keep moving forward. That's what ended up happening to us, and it's kind of a tricky room. So play that one safe. Again, if you have a well, I recommend putting it in the corner. Otherwise, just use your suspend and your freeze. Alright, moving on to the boss room. I recommend taking out the Colossus and the barrier up from the ledge before you drop down. It just gives you a little bit more cover to work with. Because the Colossus champion has the machine gun, it can absolutely melt you very quickly. So really just play that one safe as you can. It can be a real problem. Alright, one little note I wanted to bring up before we get to the boss itself. There is a little cheese spot that you can get to on the roof, but we actually elected to not do that just because it was a little bit difficult to get to. So I'm going to show you the full boss fight here from in the pit. So the boss is the same as it was before, only they made him a lot more chunky. He's got a lot more health, as he would normally be dead by this point. What you need to do here is, again, if you have a well, make sure you place it kind of on the ground. I don't recommend putting it up too high because the boss will push you off, and you'll get booped out and probably end up dying. The main thing you have to watch out for here, though, is the floor. Again, some of it can be taken. It didn't seem to flood like it used to, but there are these little taken cruxes that pop up that you need to shoot. And if you don't, I believe that means the room becomes more flooded over time. So just keep an eye out for those. But otherwise, you're able to just kind of outrun the boss and use the pillars for cover. The boss will occasionally try to tether you, and it really can mess up your aiming and slow you down enough for the boss to come and get you, or one of the thralls to come get you. You can shoot the tethers just like you can a hunter tether, and you can despawn it that way. But otherwise, just use the cover you have. Make sure you take out those cruxes and the tethers, and just take out as many adds as you can. I recommend having at least one person clearing adds while everyone else does boss damage, and the add person can also be on crux duty. The two people doing damage to the boss can also be on crux duty, but it's really just kind of however your team wants to divvy it up. The main thing is, though, just kind of stay separated. You don't want to get grouped up too much because one big attack can kill all of you. Again, if you're running Starfire Protocol, this is the last chance you can use it and probably your best chance to get the best value out of it. Just well next to him and just unload. Just be careful that you don't kill yourself or your teammates, because there are goblins that spawn every now and then and make the boss invincible. But otherwise, this should be a pretty easy 1 or 2 well phase boss. But that should just about cover it. I hope you found this video helpful. Again, if you did, I would greatly appreciate it if you could like it and subscribe to the channel. As always, I will be more than happy to help you out. So just join the Discord or reach out to me in the comments of this video, and I'll be happy to help you get your Grandmaster clears. So with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.